Once I learn how to trigger the sensation of vibration within me, I can let go of the thought that resonates at that frequency, and I can just trigger love. And then everything in the world that matches love will magnetize to me.
Yeah, or cat. They're going to start putting litter boxes in the schools.
That's old news.
Yeah.
That's old news.
Hello, hello, hello. What is up, everybody? I hope you're ready for a special ride tonight. This is the Diesel Daddies Podcast. I'm here with two amazing gentlemen, Mr. Nick Dollins, Diesel Daddy Dollins, and
gang,
Money
gang.
Murdoch, Dustin Murdoch. We're going to
Money
bring
Murdoch.
some conversation to you tonight that's going to talk about polarity, duality, and the collective conscious in our timeline trajectory.
All right, so let's start out with explaining what polarity is by your definition.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's put it into context. Okay, so the different densities we've talked about quite a few times, right? First density, second density, third density, fourth density, fifth density, and beyond. The Earth, when we all came into it, was third density. Okay, well, all third density planetary spheres, right, which would just be different planets or simulations, if you will, all fall in the category of duality. Okay, now polarity, right, is a charge. Okay, it's either a positive polarity, it's a charge to the positive, right, or it's a polarity to the negative, right? It's a charge to the negative. Now, the positive and the negative, that in itself would be considered what is a dual reality.
So like good versus evil, basically.
It's not a verse because it's all one thing. It's all God.
I guess
It's like a
for a
yin
simple
yang.
understanding.
For simple understanding, it's basically what gives us the concept of separation from things. Dark from light, dark from light, left to right, up and down, good and evil, positive, negative, two sides to the coin, right? There's you wouldn't know what one is without the other, right? And again, we're in this field of entanglement of one consciousness, right? Or God or source energy, and it manifests itself in this dual reality. For us to experience ourselves beginning in a state of separation because we're veiled, right? And then we awaken to the idea that, oh, wait a second, we're actually all unified here. It's singularity, but we understand and comprehend that we're in a realm of duality and polarity. And once we understand that, we can begin to use techniques, thought forms, ideas, and actions with our new understanding of the realm that we're in to be able to utilize polarity and duality to our advantage.
Yeah, I believe one way you can do that is once you learn the law of polarity, which is one of the 7 hermetic principles in the Kabbalion. It's written by the three initiates, and it's basically a tribute to Hermes, aka Thoth. And so in that polarity, I guess it's this idea that we have hot and cold as separate things. It's just one principle on a scale. And so there's no difference between hot and cold. It's just 2 different varying degrees of the same thing. And so when you look at, say, a negative situation, what you're able to do with the law of polarity is understand that you're in a negative state and transmute that into a positive state. I did not succeed very well this morning when I had that occur. There is times where it's just like, you're like, dude, sometimes you just want to flip somebody off, dude. You're just like, I'm not going to transmute nothing. Fuck you, dude.
Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So why do you think you feel like you just woke up with that type of mindset?
You know, I honestly, I got irritated with it because I set my day with intention. And so I'm waking up in a meditative state. I'm waking up in a calm state, and I'm setting forth the intention of the day that I'm going to have. And there's often times where as soon as I get in my car, I live out in the country. As soon as I get in my car, get on the road, it's just like I get immediately hit with the exact opposite of the intention I set. So, for example, we're getting out there, and the guy's driving 30 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour zone, and cars are starting to stack up. And we're, so we're passing this guy, and as I'm passing him, I slow down and I'm looking at him, and I'm just driving side by side, and, just like, what's going on here, dude? Like 30 and a 55, like we're trying to do stuff here. And so I just pull in front of him. We get ahead of him a couple miles, and all of a sudden I'm looking in my rearview mirror, and this guy is freaking hightailing it. He's now doing like 75, 80. And now he's coming up behind me, and he's almost clipping my bumper, and I'm pulling over off the road so he can get by me. And I'm just like, not today, dude. So I just pull over. I pull over. Well, we get to town. We get to the light. We catch back up to him, and he's doing the same damn thing to somebody else. He's now in front, and he's in front of another group of cars driving 20 when it's 55, doing the same damn thing. Like, it really had the urge to just cut this guy out, pull him out of his truck, and tell him what's up. But instead, what I've been doing is, so I was irritated because I'm setting the intention now. I'm getting in a rhythmic pattern where I'm setting my day in the way that I see fit, which is positivity and reinforcing that reflected in my reality. And so what I've noticed is that there will be these instant issues when I leave the house that'll instantly want to trigger me. And so instead of just hurrying and going about my day and trying to get to work and do my thing, I just pulled over and I just turned the car off and I did it again. I just said, nope, that's not the intention I'm going to set for the day. And that's what's known as that polarity, right? It's like your external reality is showing you something different than what you are wanting to present yourself internally. And so you're transmutating. That's a mental alchemy. You're transmuting that negative experience into a positive one. And so instead of allowing that to ruin my day and toil over and over again on that situation, even though that situation has already come and passed, I'm now saying, no, I'm taking a deep breath. I'm closing my eyes. I'm thinking I don't want to be in that. I'm not going to allow my external reality to change my internal reality.
In another way to put that in another kind of layman's terms is Dustin did not allow something in the reflection of his out projected consciousness polarize his internal thought, form, and action, right? So when something happened that would cause an emotion to rise within you, instead of allowing it to polarize you into one trajectory with certain thought forms, it could have been this motherfucker, and you could have hopped out and you could have started throwing hammers at him, right? That would be the instance of him being polarized into a negative polarization, right? And through those actions, thoughts, and deeds, what he would be doing is actually creating more experience of that.
Yeah, it would have just set me up for a failure all day long. And so that transmutation, I refuse to accept that anymore.
And kind of brings me back to what we were saying a couple weeks ago, that when you decide who you are and step into I am, the universe will always present to you what you are not. That's what it sounds like. It immediately happened.
I was just thinking that in my head. That's so funny.
Oh, it's because we're...
telepathy.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're talking again about our sixth density higher self, right? When we hear in our fourth density, and we're all connected, and even our higher self in a different dimensional realm, in the sixth density is connected here and now with us, right? When we make an intent, right, all of a sudden we turn on the switch. We become aware. We waken up. We start to understand and comprehend these ideas and qualities of this realm and reality and physics and quantums and all the different things, right? You start to get in the mojo and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this. When we make the intent, I am balanced, I am well, I am great, I am happy, I am all these things, right? Now, prior to this, you might have been coming out of a depressive state. You might have been coming out of a jealous state. You might have been coming out of, some lower densities. And so when you step into this creatorship, understand that when you say, I am this now, our higher self is going to show you every reason why you are not. And what Dustin's explaining to us is the perfect example of how to move through situations without being polarized.
Well, I would have situations that would arise that I would... it's not that I was bipolar, but there were extreme highs and extreme lows. And so it's like I would get myself all amped up. I would get myself feeling confident and great. And then I would let some sort of external situation get me down. Or I would be thumbing through the news and I would just be seeing the state of the world. And I'm like, well, I got to stay informed. You know, I got to know what is going on across seas. I got to know what's going on here. I got to know what's going on with my investments and such. And like, it's like, yes, it's informative, but to what extent? If that's it would in effect be lowering my vibration as opposed to just focusing on the things that matter in life and the things that I want to create and want to do. And I definitely can't create the environment that I was looking for in that state. I was in a deep state of depression, and it's because you feel like there's no way out when that's all you're consuming.
So what do you feel like is important to you and what you're trying to create, the most important things?
I feel like the most important thing is mental stability and being able to just, instead of being a person who brings other people down or that state of separation, try to make myself rise above other people or, you know, whatever it is. It's just like...
do you feel like you're bringing people down?
You haven't met that guy, man. Like... you no, you're talking to a guy who's like barely above water right now, and he's been in a deep state of depression for probably over 10 years now.
What do you think was causing that depression?
Well, you could argue that it was a chemical imbalance in the brain, and that was my first step. Was there was a lot of paranoia and mistrust in my head, and you could argue that there's some chemical imbalances, and so I sought out some holistic healing practices and such, and some natural medicines. IV nutrition was one of them. They create IV bags for you that give you different vitamins based around different circumstances that you're going through. So digestive health, mental health, things of that nature. And it seems that after the first few IV bags that instantly I was already over this paranoia cloud sitting over my head. And so I created the situation myself with those.
So I didn't mean to interrupt. I kind of want to add to the question.
Yeah, after you.
Okay. Was there like events that happened in your life that caused depression, and then maybe lifestyle made a chemical imbalance? Or was
I think lifestyle made a chemical imbalance. We did a lot of drugs in college, and so
college.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we did ecstasy, MDMA. I don't think that weed contributed to that. We did acid. I do think that those were contributing factors to the chemical imbalances in my brain. And you look back on those times and you think, like the person I am today, like I can't believe that I never would have thought that I would have engaged any of those activities the way that I did. I never thought that I would sell drugs in the way that I did. I never thought that I would... I was going to be a business major. I was going to be this entrepreneur. I was reading Napoleon Hill. I was wearing suits and ties as a kid. Like, I literally wanted to go to school, become a successful entrepreneur. And what I did was sell a bunch and do a bunch of drugs, go to a bunch of parties. I did everything but do what you're supposed to do in college. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I could say that it was self-inflicted for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to.
And then also too, I just want to make the statement. Outside of our own personal choices, it is an importance to understand that in this realm of duality, right? We have what some may see as the good forces, right? And we have some that may see the bad forces, right? Or the service to others group of collective conscious, and then the ones that are service to self that are trying to control and manipulate. Well, the service to self entities here on the planet, I guess you could call them the elites, the Rockefellers, whoever. You can look it up. It's all over the internet. Everybody's aware now. But they are trying on every level to lower our vibrational frequency, which along with that causes it's almost like imbalances in vibrational frequency that when our bodies are enveloped in it through the poisons they're putting in our food, poisons they're putting in our sky, poisons they're putting in our water, poisons they're putting in our TV, these things play a massive, massive role in why most people can't seem to get out of that plateau of depression. Although our choices make all the difference in the world.
But here's the thing. What led to those choices? It was all about what I was inputting into my system. So what was I doing? I was listening to rap music. I was it was the cultural thing that we're growing up today. And here's the thing, it's 100,000 times worse than it was when we were growing up. And so now we're looking at over sexualizing women. Every woman's got a OnlyFans account, it seems like. You know, every time you're scrolling through, you can't hardly ignore it. So it's like, that's why I really removed myself from social media, because now I'm really paying attention to the input, because the input really does determine the output, as far as like what music I'm listening to, what TV I'm watching, which I'm no longer watching TV. But even when you remove, like, people think that they're good, they're covered when they remove, okay, I don't indulge in TV shows. Okay, I don't listen to poor music. Okay, I don't follow mainstream media. But you're still inputting things into that subconscious mind, which is exhibiting your actions. So, for instance, I can say and embody all the right things. That's my conscious mind. But my subconscious mind is what's being programmed to promote my actions. And so I may say that I want to quit a bad habit, but my subconscious mind is programmed to say, no, I'm automatically programmed to do that habit.
Real quick on conscious and subconscious, okay? This is a very important part to understand. What it means to be consciously creating or consciously present and choosing means that you are here and now in this moment with no thoughts in your mind, right? And so what Dustin talks about being conscious and choosing, but then when he's not conscious, his subconscious takes over. A good imagery of that would be like when you're driving down the street, right? You can all of a sudden like, oh shit, like wake up and you're like, oh man, I just drove a mile and a half. And
people talk about that all the time.
I wasn't even paying attention. Okay, well, in that moment, what happened was your subconscious had taken over the steering wheel. The body knows how to drive the car better than you do. All right, and so when we're not present moment, meaning we have thoughts about the future or the past going on in our head, and we're not present with the now moment, that subconscious programming is operating, producing your reality for you. And so based off of our upbringing or us being a product of our environment, right, these frequencies are programming our subconscious. And so we don't even realize that probably about 90% of your day, the subconscious is actually producing those realities for you. And what we're here to help you learn is how to stay in the present moment and begin learning how to reprogram that subconscious. So when you're not consciously in the present moment, the subconscious is producing the realities that you want.
Yeah, and I heard a quote the other day that depression happens when you can't stop living in the past. Anxiety happens when you can't stop thinking about the future, and peace and joy happen when you're living in your present moment.
I love that.
Yeah, but the difference between what we were talking about last week and today was that overactive mind. And so where you were able to just say stare at a wall for hours at a time, it's like, no, I was wondering, who's out to get me, man? Like,
so I was thinking about stuff that hasn't happened that could cause anxiety. And, I kind of want to get into this because I had a bunch of comments on the last episode that we did together talking about, like, emptying your mind and the benefits from it and how to do it. And I really... like I've talked about, like I've been able to do that. I would still struggle being able to talk about how and why I do it.
How to arrive at it.
How to arrive at it. Like, I feel the benefits from it now, and it happened from me forcing myself to do it over and over.
I've got a really good technique. It's the base technique that I teach everybody when they first start.
Well, like I know people, and I feel like you've kind of touched on like how you kind of struggle with doing this too. Like even though you empty your mind and you're being conscious, like you're still struggling with having the peace that is said to arise from doing these practices.
Yeah, because I do feel like that the first step was maintaining or to getting the nutrients that I was lacking. So getting the chemical balance, I do feel like that was step one. But okay, cool. Now I don't have the obsessive paranoia and everybody's out to get me. Cool. Now I got to do it on my own and there's no excuses. And so, yes, it does. And we did start with Josh back in his marijuana farm and just sitting there growing the plants. And I was I was completely out of whack, and I was just like not trusting anyone, but like, hey, my boy's back in town, let's hang out, and only to find out that he's got all these exercises and these modalities and stuff, and he's talking all spiritual like I was back in the day. Completely blew my mind. And so through those discussions and through those exercises, I started to make sense of it. And now, I mean, your girl, what's her name?
Shayna.
Yeah, she told me that that type of thinking is like what a girl would do. And so now my exercise when I'm overthinking is just like, dudes, just stare at the wall, bro. Just be a dude.
Hey, but you know what? The modalities,
stare at the wall.
Yeah.
Understanding, because I think a lot of people are stuck in this position right now, is like, okay, well, a silent mind, like, don't think. Okay, well, like, how do I not think? I'm thinking all the time. There has been little things, a million little things along the way that has really helped out. Just a couple quick ones. Conscious tracking, okay? This has probably been the number one biggest training method in my toolbox, is to learn how to do what's called conscious tracking. And so what that is the easiest way to do it is you would just stand up, right? And you would bring your mind to the bottom of your feet touching the floor. Even sitting here right now, I can bring my mind to the bottom of my feet, and I can feel the bottom of my feet against the floor. And what I'm doing is I'm holding my mind there. So you want to do this 3 times a day for 3 days, 6 times a day for 6 days, and 9 times a day for 9 days. 3-6-9 method. It's conscious tracking. And so just set a timer for 3 times a day, okay? And spend about 3 minutes. And what you're going to do is you're going to bring your mind to your feet, all right? And you're going to hold your mind there for as long as you can. Try to do it for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute. After that minute, what I want you to do is I want you to hold your hands in front of you, and then I want you to move your consciousness and hold your attention on the palm of your hands. And I want you to feel the air around your hands. I want you to feel the center of the palm of the hand. And if you focus on it and look at it, you can feel and you can place your mind into that area of the body. Hold it there for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute. For the last third minute, right? Bring your consciousness back down into your feet. Just take it right back down into your feet and hold it there for a minute. And what we're doing is we're holding our mind or our attention on a single point of consciousness. Now, you could also translate this into staring at a single point in the wall, right? And holding your attention there. Because where attention goes, energy flows. And in order to tap the magical secretion, to tap this infinity and intelligence, we first have to learn how to discipline our attention, to pay attention, to pay. Attention is the currency of the universe.
And so I guess the opposite of that is this attention deficit disorder that we've been labeled, I guess. And to me, I'm thinking about people in like trades type of work in which they're using hand saws and things of that nature all the time. It's like you develop attention because you're going to cut your hand off if you don't do that. And so I just think, and so I feel a little silly even sitting here saying we've got to develop this attention span, I guess. But I guess
we should, and I think a lot of our attention is deteriorating because we watch stuff that is so like short form based, like reels on Facebook and short videos that get quick hits, and our attention develops
those quick hits or those dopamine receptors. It's like a drug.
I've really been working on is avoiding that type of stuff and watching and listening to more long form things to see if that really kind of helps my attention span. And one thing that really helped me that's pretty practical with controlling my thoughts is I stopped listening to music in the car for a long time, like 30 days. Just if I'm driving, no music at all.
Just focus on driving.
And a lot of it was because I wanted to get rid of, like what you said earlier, the kind of music I was listening to. Like I was listening to hip hop, rap, and country music is just as bad as rap.
This shit's dope, but Kanye's talking about these being on those 808 beats. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? No, frequency matters. And so if you're getting on those 808 beat frequencies, and Kanye even brings it up, dude. Mm-hmm. He goes, you're programming yourself to be in a certain mode. And so listening to tracks side by side with the 808s versus the
432 hertz.
432 hertz.
Billy Carson came out with the Tupac's remix of Unconditional Love at the 432 hertz.
Yeah, for sure. And so why are we doing this though? Because I could have just continued being the same guy. Like I'm sure that there's maybe younger people listening to us, or maybe people that are like, why am I going to stare at my fucking hand? Like, why am I going to think like I'm going to go play video games? Like, what's the point? Like, I feel like for me, it's like I envisioned myself being successful, and I was anything but that. And so, like, it's either continue being in a state of sickness, or it's somehow find a way for the cure, And I guess it's important because the number one rate of death amongst men between 18 and 34 is suicide due to mental illness. And so they don't really provide anything but some sort of pill for you to alleviate this problem. Or attention deficit disorder, they're going to alleviate it with giving you some sort of pill. And so what we're telling you, I believe, or what we are discovering, is that just being able to still the mind and sit with yourself and meditate and have no thoughts is kind of, the base to being able to create the life that you want.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very important question to ask yourself. What is my aim? What is the goal in this for me, right? Because in the beginning, what you're going to realize is that, in the beginning, it's about making a better life, right? But where I've kind of arrived at ultimately is the understanding of singularity. Again, we come back to this singular one thing going on here. There's one God. We're all made of it. All the things are manifest from it. It's infinite source energy. And so it's not just about me, right? And in the beginning, it's stepping stones, right? It's about making a better life for me. But even the idea or concept of making a better life for me is a state of separation, because if I just want a better life for me, apart from everyone else, right, well, then I'm seeing myself still in a state of separation, right? The aim and trajectory here is a collective consciousness of abundance, health, arriving at a place. Imagine a world with no illness. Imagine a civilization that's interstellar, that is thriving, abundant, golden age for 1,000 years, peace beyond all imagination. And some people say, well, there's no way that can happen. Do you see what's going on out here right now?
Well, what you're doing with that individual, you're inserting an individual level of consciousness to the overall collective consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so right now we're operating on this idea, like, that the majority of people are seeing war, famine, poverty. And so what you're doing is inserting your level of consciousness into the overall, so we can start to begin to develop and turn things that direction.
Mm-hmm. Because what we think, how we feel, and what we perceive is creating the world around us. And although there is only one of us here, and everyone else is just a reflection of your consciousness, we are also living in a collective community, in a collective conscious creation. And so it's about a majority. It's not even about a majority, because the positive outweighs the negative like a millionfold. So like if 1 million people on the planet all reach a certain vibrational frequency, we carry the whole planet and all of the humans and all of the beings into the fourth density. Now that might be a rough ride for the others that are still lower frequency, but that's what we're here to do, is to help you awaken. And just the pure fact of awakening, stilling your mind, doing these practices, being in service to others, doing good by others, loving yourself. You can't love anyone until you learn how to love yourself, which is an important topic to continue to touch on. But this is this collective consciousness that we're talking about. And so it's important that we learn from these steps, right? What is a dual reality? Well, a dual reality means that it's a reality of polar opposites, but those polar opposites are the same thing, just different scales of each other.
Yeah, it's just like these things that you were mentioning. I guess you can refer to them as the 7 chakras, where all these things like jealousy, hatred, envy are all in the lower region, and positive, light, love, and joy are all in the higher region. And so you can work your way up to the crown chakra or go back down to the base chakra, and where the base is your animalistic instincts, and where you're at the crown is more in your divine nature. But I guess what I've learned recently is that those are all the same spectrum. It's just different varying degrees of the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so living in that lower nature is somehow you want to create that mental alchemy in order to transmit it up to the top.
Couple things on these lower chakras as well, right? Thanks for bringing this up. This is a great topic to add into tonight's conversation, because with these energy centers, which Dustin are referring to as chakras, which is the terminology for those, right? We actually have many chakras all over the body, but most people know about the 7, right? And the lower 3, the yellow, the orange, and the red ray, right, are where most of us were stuck in this third density reality. Because think of it as our ancestors, even just 100 years ago, they were slaughtering each other with swords and shields and knives and muskets and all of that, right? So it was definitely a time period in reality and realm of the lower chakras, which is, like he said, survivability, right? You're only surviving in a world of separateness, right? Lust, right? A big one, pornography, right? If you're consistently looking or watching or engaging in pornography, you have an extreme distortion or imbalance in your red chakra, which is the first one. You're not even off the base level. If you're...
Well, the base needs is food, sex, sleep. I mean...
those aren't needs.
Right. Okay.
Well, debatable.
Well, yeah, but food doesn't necessarily fall into survivability. That's a perception and a choice to put it there, as if I feel that I'm scared that there's not enough food for me to survive, when in reality I could just go grow all my own. I just have to take the willingness.
But I think what he was trying to say, if I'm not wrong, is that you have to eat to be alive.
But that's not a negative polarity.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't want it to be confused with a negative polarity, right? Sex absolutely can be a negative polarity, but it can also be a positive polarity. But the lust... I forgot to put my phone on silent. The lust, right? Here's another example. If you're in the gym, you're working out, and your eyes just can't get off of every ass in there, right? And you're scanning up and down every woman that walks by you, right? There's a distortion in your red ray chakra, right? And so what I'm getting by these things is that when we become aware of the different levels and energies and what they're related to, right? The yellow ray would be related to self-confidence and my image and what I think I should be because of what the projections tell me I should be. If I think I need to be some type of way to be accepted in some type of way, there's a distortion in my yellow ray.
Society's telling me that that's what I do to be loved and accepted by others, is I sell drugs, I bump loud rap music, and I play sports.
Well, it's also interesting that you say that, because I was reading that the yellow chakra, like the blockage to grow past that, is narcissism. So that's where narcissism is held deeply in there. And if you're struggling with being a narcissistic personality, is because you're stuck in that block of a yellow chakra and you can't get out, because you feel like there's a certain way that people need to perceive you and that you have to be a certain way. That's what narcissism is.
You got to be a character.
Once I stopped doing all those things, I do know that reverse engineering my mind and what happened to me and why I chose the certain path that I chose was all in that acceptance of other people and wanting to be involved in the group. And once I removed all of those things, I really did find myself just like sitting there by myself, like no attention, no nothing. Like for those 5 years you talked about, it's like, and there's even times where I'm just like, man, all I got to do is get a fat stack and go get me a little cocaine, and find me a few guys, and I've got a fat stack, and like, everybody wants to party and be my friend again. It really was that.
It really is. And for everybody, again, because we talk about these topics and it can get real hard to follow sometimes. These energy centers, these ideas of attachments and distortions to the things, having the idea that I need to be this character and I got to show up in a certain way to impress people or to be of some stature or status, right? These energies or distortions or imbalances within us, right, are keeping us from resonating in the fourth density planet, Earth, the new Earth. And if you're not resonating or vibrating at the level of love, which is the heart center, right, that's the one above the yellow ray, it's the green ray, then you will not make the graduation window. Okay, so this becomes actually real vital, because it's like, oh, wait a second, okay. Because once you understand, you can't unknow something you know. And now it becomes a choice. It becomes a choice every time I pull my phone out and switch over to the pornography.
Well, honestly, it's just like, I'm tired of degrading myself so much. Like, I'm tired of living that old lifestyle, because I understand that it's not been good for my energetic system. Like, every one of those poor decisions that I made, like, I have to deal with it with either my conscience or this degradation of my soul energy, which I've felt and have ignored my entire life. I'm just like, yo, just go do that thing, Hey, man, just go do that thing that you want to do it right now. And I guess if you were looking at it towards the Bible, that because I don't want to disregard the Bible as being something that isn't a valuable piece of information. And we've got other sources of the Bible that we have gotten we're really interested into. But it's like being disobedient, whether you want to call it being disobedient to God or being disobedient to the natural laws of the universe or being disobedient to the 7 Hermetic principles. There is a basis of natural law that if you go against, it will come back to bite you or degrade your soul in some essence. And so, in fact, that's what our actual law is derived off of, is these basic laws, and they've been expanded beyond. That.
I thought I turned that off too. Did you see me? I did it.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Oh, somebody needs your attention. I'm gonna watch Josh on his phone.
Yeah.
All right. Huh? Who knows? Funny.
I want to get you back on track. I really do believe that all this has to do with is this separation and thinking that, I am not all the things that I've portrayed myself to be. Like, I am love, I am happiness.
Absolutely.
When you're not externally seeking all of these things that you think that you need, you almost get them. And so if I'm not seeking attention and I'm just being...
You get the
then
attention.
I get the attention that I crave or whatever it is,
Absolutely. And so what we're transitioning into right now, right, after explaining these lower 3 energy centers, which are still very important to the whole, okay? We're not... This is crazy. Hold on, let me get this. Because
is that a customer?
No.
Oh, just tell me he's on air.
Yeah,
we can cut
Cell
it out.
Truck, Jimmy Long Truck.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so
silly androids, you can't turn them off.
We're transitioning right out of these 3 lower centers with our actions, thoughts, and deeds. Okay, so currently or prior to this understanding or awakening, right, or moving into a state of singularity, we were all living in a state of separation. I was Josh, and that was Nick, and that's Dustin, and we're all apart from each other, and we all have our own jobs, and we all have the way we got to show up. We got to work out because we got to be big and bad, and we got to make sales, and we're going to be entrepreneurs, and we got to show up every day, and I got to impress all the girls, and I got to make sure that I do this, right?
We're still going to do all those things.
We're still going to do all those things, right? But hear me out. What we're learning is to move upward into the heart center, and when you move upward into the heart center, you stop looking outside of yourself and you start realizing that everything inside of you is reflecting outside of you. So what is outside is inside, and what's inside is outside, as above, so below, right? These are these fractal patterns. And so this is where God is inlaid at every level, right? It is the fractal pattern. It is the source energy, the same pattern that is manifest at different vibrational frequencies into the different forms of light that we perceive with our eyes. Okay? And so, but ultimately, everything you think that you see outside is imaging inside of your head, right? We're not actually seeing with our eyes. Our eyes are optical nerves that are absorbing light and condensing it into information, and that information is sent through an optical nerve into the brain, and somewhere in the brain inside we're imaging this picture of the things that we think are outside of us.
Well, so what comes to mind when you're speaking in that manner is that it's like I started this journey about 15 plus years ago of wanting to know myself, wanting to know the truth, whatever that meant. And what I come to determine based on what you just said is that you can't know what you are. You can only know what you're not. And so what I'm not is I'm not the body. I'm not the mind. I'm not the emotions. And so when you come to that steadiness of mind and you realize it's like, so all of these emotions that would come up or all of my past experiences of maybe not treating people with love and kindness, and actually being the opposite, kind of being unruly to others and kind of really projecting hatred onto others. It's like the more you heal yourself and the more I've healed myself, it's like those memories of those past, you say the moment you make that decision, the universe is going to show you why you're not that. It's like, well, it's like those thoughts come up constantly, or those images come up constantly. It's like, hey, remember when you screwed somebody over there? Hey, remember when you were angry here? Hey, remember when you looked like a jackass there? It's like, I just start to let these things just wash over me. It's like the emotion just move through me and not attach myself to those things. And I did that practice, just I love you, I thank you.
And when he means not to attach to the emotion it's coming through, he's talking about not having any thought, right? Any patterns of thought or words.
But they're still going to come up.
That cycle.
I know we've gotten to the whole...
Yeah, but when we're in those moments and we're letting it just flush over us and bathe over us, the training, the idea is to let the thoughts go and just feel if it's burning, it crawls over your head. It makes you angry, right? Once you awaken to it, you go through this period called the dark night of the soul, right? And it's this time period that you don't have to deal with all these things because you're aware that you're not these things, but you're also happen to witness these things either in the projection of your consciousness, which you think is outside of you, or if you know how to consciously track the distortion of energy within you, you can heal it there as well.
Well, it's kind of like an onion, dude. It's like the same ones were coming up, right? Well, like you did this, even me and you maybe. Hey, you did this to Josh. Hey, you know, you slided Nick in this way. You just met the guy, Nick, and you slide him in this way. And it's like, okay, well, you ignore those for a while. And it's like, okay, well, those aren't affecting him. Let's go back deeper. These are the ones you suppressed. Oh, those aren't affecting you? Cool. There's some more shit you did. Let's bring that to his attention. And so instead of allowing, what I would do is just allow that to control. That's what would put me in that depression. Was even though I've arrived to this state of healing that I've been in, it's like something in my subconscious wants to be like, okay, well, I'm going to bring up some shit that you did in the past, and I'm going to bring you back down to this level. And then you say, no, I see it. I thank you. I love you. I respect you. I understand what happened in that situation. I apologize. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I forgive you, Dustin. You know, I forgive you for if you've done something to me. And it's like, okay, cool. You got through those? Here's some more shit. Here's some more shit. Oh, cool. You got through that? Here's some more shit.
Well, I mean, think of how many lives that we've probably lived and experienced. I mean, some of us have lived millions of lives on this planet and another. Maybe not a million here, but, you know, I mean, for myself, I know at least during the Atlantean period, I lived 19 lives, incarnations. Now, I know this is my first lifetime period here. Some might say, well, how do you know that? Well, I know it through my own experiences. I know it through some very loved entities and individuals that can channel. And as you continue to grow on this path, what you realize is that the more time that you spend in singularity, the more you become aware of how much love and how much experience unfolds within you. And I believe that that's part of the knowing thyself. A lot of what we're talking about right now is very physical, outward techniques, concepts, mental structures to be able to engage in the present moment of experiencing these depressive thoughts or experiences. But there's also another side of the coin. There's the side of the coin to where you're taking time out of your day, maybe the first hour of your day, maybe the last hour of your day, maybe an hour in the middle of the day, whenever you have time to sit down and shut your eyes. Now, some people would call this meditation, but I don't even really like to use that word because there's so much attachment to that word. Really what you're doing is you're sitting down long enough to let go of every thought inside of your body. And when you let go of every thought inside of your body, it's at that point in time that you have access to what's called the void or infinity intelligence. And you are able to access different dimensional realms, different experiences.
Well, it's because we're this collective consciousness and we are all things. That's what allows you to astral project. That's what allows you to do remote viewing. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean even more of a sense like you can reel back through your life and you can heal things, those traumas internally without having to experience them out here again. Because if you don't know how to handle it internally, you don't know how to rewrite, you don't know how to trail back, even as far back into the womb of your mother, even into the semen of your father and into those patterns and traumas and even into past lives.
I wouldn't even know how to travel back to my dad's ball sack.
Well, once you can drop all thought and then you can start trailing your life back.
So what's an example of something that you've trailed your life back? Did you just rewrite? You say, okay, here's a specific example where I say I wronged my buddy Josh. I go back to that moment and I rewrite it in my imagery in my mind, or
that could be along the way, yeah. And when you come across that moment, you can experience that moment again as if you're really there, right? And part of being able to bring the imagery up inside of your mind when your eyes are closed is first you got to learn how to let go of all the thoughts. You can't even get to what I'm talking about until you've silenced the mind. You've become no one. You've become nowhere. You become no time. You become no thing. You become nobody. And
well, if you're in that silent state of mind, then there are no reoccurring thoughts that said you ever did anything in the past or the future. You're in the present. And so at that point of being able to achieve the silence of the mind, what is the point of me traveling back?
Well, you're not traveling back until you achieve the silence of the mind, because you can't properly write vibration if your mind is constantly in the past and the future.
Well,
if I'm worried about, I need to,
your mind would be in the past.
Yeah, hear me out, but that's with intent.
Feel like a need to go back and change something.
There's a difference between doing something with intention and not being able to control the attention span. So if I'm trying to meditate right here, but I keep thinking, oh man, I got to be at work in 30 minutes, right? Well, I'm stuck to a thought of the future. I'm part of time, right? So becoming no time is not having any thoughts of anywhere I need to be or anything that I need to show up to, right? Becoming nowhere is the same concept, right? Becoming no one. And now, and again, this is kind of hard to concept, but first you have to achieve a state of silence.
Well, when I achieve that state of silence, it's because here's how obsessive I would be. Okay, it takes me 10 minutes to get to work. It takes me 5 minutes to put on my shirt. It takes me 3 minutes to get to here. It takes me 5 minutes to get to here. I got that from my grandmother. She was insane. But anyway, so like I believe that that's where that overthinking came from. But when you reach a state of no thought, it's like what's crazy is how some sort of external factor will move you towards being on time. Or like you'll move without having to think, okay, I got to be here in 10 minutes. I got to be here in 12 minutes. Just having the thought is I'm always on time, saying the right things at the right time. Having that as a thought form and a belief about myself, it kind of sets this autonomous success rate within myself.
Question.
Yeah.
When was the last time any of us have had zero thoughts for an hour or longer?
Oh man, I do it almost every day. It's just part of my life. I just exist like that. I don't even have to try.
So, okay, that's a good question for you. So, like, we've been bouncing back and forth here, talking about all of these exercises and things. But you seemed like, to me, meditation is a practice of learning to silence the mind. That's the best way I can explain it. And it's like we're doing more in the no thought than we are in the thinking. So in the thinking, we're thinking that we're planning all these plans and making all these things, but you're actually doing more in the state of silence than you are in that chaotic state.
When you're in a state of peace is the highest vibration of this realm.
And so the fact that you're not thinking, you don't even need meditation.
Well, it's not meditation, it's becoming meditative. That's why I don't like to use the word meditation, because we're not meditating. There is no such thing as meditating. It's becoming meditative, which is a state of vibrational frequency, which would be peace.
Yeah, exactly. I feel that peace a lot, and I don't feel like anybody's accomplishing more when they're in that state, because when you actually get to that state fully, you realize there's really nothing to accomplish at all. I mean, what is there to accomplish?
Okay, and
outside
so
of just
when you arrive at that point, though, so that was something I was struggling with. Is like, okay, now I'm silent. Okay, now I feel better. Now it's like,
But even
I
that
feel like
means
I've
you're
got
not silent.
Well,
If you're sitting there telling yourself, well, now I'm silent.
well, I know, but it's just kind of like, well, it brings that peace that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so the problem with that is like, okay, now okay, cool. Well, I think the purpose of the duality or the polarity of hot and cold, of night and dark, the contrast, the good and the evil, is that it takes away the monotony of life, the drama. It's like, oh, life is exciting. Life has got ups. Life has got downs. And so now that I've found this peace and this neutrality, it's kind of like, oh, life may become a little mundane because I've learned to not react to every situation.
It is like that in the beginning.
It's kind of talking about that in one of our earlier episodes where I was like, I feel so neutral about things. I don't really feel like there's anything need to accomplish at all. Like, damned if I do, damned if I don't, or good if I do, good if I don't. It doesn't matter. And that really bothered me. I felt like I had meditated myself to pointlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a thing to add to that, right? Because that is definitely happens in the first part of silencing. And also I want everybody to know, Nick is a very special individual for being able to achieve and do what he's saying he's doing.
Yeah.
I've been practicing this.
Well, I could stare at a wall
I've been
for an
practicing these methods for almost 8 straight years now.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the last time that I was able to sit for longer than an hour with absolutely no thought. And that's being 100% honest and transparent. That, you know, and so understand that it's for some, it comes easy, but for most, it takes practice.
And I don't know if I would say if it came easy. I'd say if I didn't do it, I was going to kill myself.
Yeah, so you were at a point
Can
to
you,
where you had no choice but to do it.
It was. I mean, that's.
What do you mean? Like,
I just hated my life.
You hit rock bottom.
The divorces, the loss from all the traumatic relationship experiences that I had. Like, I just wanted to die, and I hated myself. And I felt like there was no other option. There was nothing else I could do that could externally take something from me, no matter how much I drank or whatever. And I was just.
So are you saying that those things that happened to you were like overthinking all of those occurrences, and the solution to that was, I'm just not going to think?
No, I really don't. I just hated my life to the point where I didn't really know what to do anymore, and I was struggling with God and everything. And I think from that, it became a fear of if I go out and make decisions in this current state of mind I'm at, I'm going to make things way, way worse, because I knew I wasn't okay. And so I had to just sit and be alone and just work through it. I had to take away the music. I had to take away my friends that I had, and I had to just sit with myself and just learn to be with myself and just figure out what the fuck was going on with me, like why I kept getting cheated on, why I kept getting divorced, and being forced out of my kids' life for their youth for really no other reason that I felt was just very unfair to me, and just learn how to take ownership of my life and all of that, and just eating all that, to swallowing that huge pill. The only way to truly do it and get through it, and this is with anything, not just what I was just experiencing, is learning how to just control your thoughts, take complete ownership for everything that you're doing that's happened in your life, all of it. Everything in your life is your fault. Actually, a quote from Josh. Everything is not your fault until you realize that it is your fault. Like, it's not your fault to a certain point until you realize you have control of your decisions.
But
and
it's
then
your
it becomes
responsibility.
your responsibility.
It's not necessarily that it was your fault, but it's your responsibility to move
But once
forward.
you realize that,
you realize that you are everything that happens in your life that you think happens to you instead of for you is you creating it.
And I think everything that happened to me at that point actually was happening for me, because if it didn't, and I didn't realize that, I wouldn't be able to, be who I am today with the same, mental stability that I have. But, I think it was just,
would you say
so much.
Now I'm curious, now that you've gotten to the state that you're in, is the result of that, like, you have time with those kids, like you?
Yeah.
Like,
life always, like, the result is I learned how to love through everything that I was already going through. I learned how to love my daughter's mom in a totally different way. where it was just like there was absolutely nothing that she could say to me, do to me, or whatever. If she would ignore my phone calls and kept my kid from me, I knew how to be at complete peace with that and not feel affected by it. So,
well, because that was probably her method of control over you. She knew that if she had your kids,
she did, and you know, there was a part of her that was afraid of me, and that was my fault, and I had to come to grips with that. You know, from being a narcissist and being mean and being like, you know what, you can't do that to me. When as soon as you say that, they're like, well, I guess I fucking can because she's living with me now, and it just starts this whole fucking thing. And learning how to control your mind and not just pretend that you're saying things out of love. The fake it till you make it thing is kind of the way you get there, but while you're faking it, you're still not authentic, you know. And until that love really comes out of you authentically, then nothing will really change. And when that started happening for me, everything in my life started changing. You know, I get to see and talk to my daughters all the time, and what was weird is when I got to the point where I was mentally there, like that didn't even become the goal for me anymore. The only thing I really thought was like, I'm just going to love everybody, and whatever happens, whoever's in front of me, whether it's you guys here or my daughter or Shayna or just my fucking dog, you know, the same love always pours out. And if something gets taken away from me, I'm never angry or affected by it.
Yeah, I think
if I do feel like an instant spike's like boom, like I feel that instant fire of somebody said something to me, then it's like boom, I feel it, but I can recognize it so fast I can just bring it straight back down, empty my thoughts, and then just go straight through it.
Yeah, you know what? I love you.
That's exactly
literally
it.
And so these are stepping stones, like what you guys are hearing through these stories and these pathways, right, are stepping stones. And real quick, I want to bring us back to about when you were talking about when you finally reached that neutrality, how it almost seemed like a desert of nothingness, right?
That's a great way to describe that.
Right,
yeah.
It's a desert of nothingness. But here's the exciting part, right? Because a lot of people don't realize this, because there's a lot of work to get to that place, and then when you get to that place, you're just so neutral and you're so relaxed and you're so peaceful that it's like, oh wait, there is nothing to do, right? And I am nobody, and everything does just happen, right? But here's the fun part, right? We're the creators of this reality. Okay, and people just don't quite understand how to get into the modalities of creation, right? And so there's 2 time periods in the day that I want to notate. That's the very morning, early morning, right? When we're waking up, coming out of sleep. And then the other time period is when we're going to sleep and we're moving into sleep. These 2 time periods are the time periods we want to utilize our higher faculties of our imagination, cultivating certain vibrational emotions, right? And imaging certain things. And so I'll just give you an example of myself, where I'm at currently, right? And so when I wake up in the morning, I don't just go over to my phone, okay? Actually, the first thing I do is my dog Bella climbs up on my chest and she licks me and we hug and I pet her and we give each other just the most unconditional love ever.
I do the same thing with my dog.
It puts me in like the highest, I'm just in love. That's how I start my day, right? But my eyes are closed and it's very easy to have no thought at very first thing in the morning. For some it is, for some it isn't. I've practiced this many years, so it has become easy for me to have no thought when I wake up. Okay, so in my mind, I start what I call the gratitude train, right? I'm so thankful for my life, right? But in my mind, when I say I'm so grateful for my life, I'm seeing a reality that some might say is 20 years ahead, right? But I'm seeing it right now in the present moment. And so what I'm seeing is all of us thriving. Every gardens everywhere. The whole earth has been washed and turned into the new garden of the world, of the universe, right? I see us with flying vehicles and technology, infinite technology, energy power technology, gravity control, magnetic field control. I see us with no sickness, right? Some people say, oh, well, material things aren't good, but I see us with beautiful homes. I see us with beautiful toys. There's nothing wrong with material things as long as you're not attached to the material things.
I mean, even in any religious book that you have, any of them talks about when you get to the afterlife, you're going to have your own mansion or 72 virgins or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
And so you can create that right now in this moment. We can shut our eyes and we can let go of everything in this this world that may seem like it's a lower vibrational frequency. And we can choose to embody the realm, the world, the experience right now in the present moment of exactly what you see to be the most beautiful experience in the world.
And so what you're doing is you're dialing yourself into a certain frequency. And what happens is along your way, you know, you start to run into other people who share your same beliefs and ideology. They are happy. They are full of love. They are, you know, treating you the way that you want to be treated. And so I guess that's why I flipped the dude the bird this morning, because that wasn't my
Did you flip him off?
Dude, I slow rolled him in the fucking wrong lane, dude. I was like eye to eye with the dude, and I was just like, "What are we doing here today? Yeah, what are we doing here, dude?" Like, and the only reason I got so pissed off was because I've been so diligently practicing these things and setting the intention. And I'm just over it, dude, because, like, you know, the fake it till you make it, and then you actually embody love, and you're doing this for like 6 weeks, or you're doing it for 3 months, or you've done it for like a year now, and you've made progress, and you've seen progress, and you've seen your ability to manifest the things that you want in your life. And then finally you're just like, shit don't fucking work, dude. Fuck you, asshole. Like,
you know, and to slow driving, I've heard a couple things, like 2 things really. Like, you never know what someone's going through, you know.
They might be. He might be getting onto his kids. You know.
I mean, you know, I've some people that, you know, I've been in very painful, depressive states, and I just can't help but drive slow, and I'm getting fucking honked at and passed, you know, and it's like these people are just pouring on me. But at the same time, I've been at such peace driving, not thinking anything at all, that people are just passing me and flipping me off, and to realize that the person that is doing that to you, or you are doing that to, could be in one of those things. They could be in a place that you are absolutely trying to get to at such peace that they don't give a shit if they're driving slow, and you're out there just flipping them off and cussing them out, and they don't even care.
Well, yeah, they're just the mirror of your projection.
Yeah, they're actually trying to be what they already are, what you're trying to be, or, you know, they could be hurting so bad, and you just poured something on top of them.
Right, and here's the thing: you can't escape the laws, and so. That's the law of cause and effect. Or, like, what's funny is you can take these 7 Hermetic principles, and then you can apply them to the Bible or any type of...
Can you list what those are by memory? Do you know?
I actually just looked them up when he said it.
Yeah, there's the law of correspondence, the law of cause and effect.
Let's kind of break them down a little bit. Okay. Law of correspondence.
It starts out, the Hermetic philosophy outlines 7 universal principles, which are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender.
Love it.
Yeah, and so basically I went through a period of time where it's like, I don't want to, it's kind of like if you've ever seen people, or like sitcoms or whatever, not sitcoms, or cartoons, they travel back to the future and they don't want to step on a bug or something because it'll affect the whole paradigm shift.
Like the ripple effect,
the butterfly effect or whatever. Yeah,
that's a pretty good.
It's kind of
that was a good movie.
So it's like I became aware of these 7 principles that you're discussing, and it's just kind of like I understand that if I fling shit's gonna be flung back in my face, and so it's just like there are these times where I'm like, I believe that I'm acting according to these things. I know that the things being done to me are an exact reflection of what I've done to them. I know it for a fact. There's no denying it. So if there's somebody cutting you off in traffic, it means you've cut somebody off in traffic. That's just sheer. That's all there is to it. And so as soon as I got in my fit of rage and I stepped outside the laws, it came right back to me. And it didn't matter what situation it is. I've even been yelling at myself, being like, dude, like, I don't want that response.
Yeah, you know better,
and I'm like,
right? Once you know, you can't unknow.
And I'm over here going like, I know that I'm acting the way that, you know, I know I'm acting, you know, and I'm like, how else do I tell these people, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like, I've really gotten a fit of rage because I understand that it's a reflection of me. And so I'm over here thinking that I'm being diligent and I'm handling my business and I'm educating myself and I'm treating others like I want to be treated. And yet I'm still getting a response that is unpalatable to me. And so and then finally, lo and behold, it's like, okay, I smoothed that out and I understood, like, I was being dominating, I was being controlling, I was being egotistical, and I was thinking that I was not being those things. But because it was still being reflected to me, I just had to find another way. I'm like, okay, it's like the treat others like you want to be treated. It's like that shit is real. That's a law. It's a law of the universe. If you legitimately don't like the way something is being presented to you outside of yourself, it's because you are it.
And it's important to know that it's not just what you say about others or things outside. It's also about what you're saying about others or yourself inside.
Mm-hmm.
One of the quick techniques, this is an advanced technique, right? We were talking about the 2 time periods of day, right? That are the best times for cultivating vibrational frequency, which is what we're doing in the morning and at the nighttime. When we're waking up and when we're going to sleep, our brain waves are shifting into different vibrational frequencies. When we're coming out of sleep, we're coming out of delta through theta into alpha. I might be backwards on those, and then at nighttime it's in reverse, right? But it's in this theta wave brain state that we open the door to that subconscious programming we talk about running, okay? And so when I create these imageries of this beautiful, abundant world as if I'm living it right now, in connection to all that is, and being able to embody what that love actually feels like, right? What's happening is there's a sensation, there's a physical sensation that I begin to feel inside of me when I'm in these states. And it's that vibrational frequency, that sensation that begins to take place in the body, that is what we are cultivating, okay? The thought or the image isn't as important as the vibration that comes with it. And once you start to, through practice every day and every night, and you're cultivating the sensation, it's a physical feeling in your body. Once you know what that feels like, well, then the advanced technique is when you come out of that and you're about to start your day, right? Through the entire day, I have no thought. But now that I know what that sensation feels like, I can trigger that vibration without any thought, any imagery, any patterns, because I know what it feels like. Once you know what it feels like, you can trigger the vibration. And so the technique is to move through your whole day with your attention on that vibrational frequency, no thought, no mind, just being present with that vibrational frequency, that sensation that you've been cultivating in every moment, being fully embodied in the conversation, being fully embodied in the driving, not listening to music or in thought patterns of where you got to be, right? Just triggering that vibrational frequency all day, because it's about momentum of vibrational frequency. And so in quantum mechanics, right, in the quantum realm, 1 + 1 = 3, okay? One reality is where we're at currently. When I take the time in the morning to cultivate a new reality, I create a second reality, okay? Now, as I move through my day, if I'm holding my attention on that vibration of the new reality, well, then I'm up here. But then some asshole drives by me and I give him the slow stare, well, then I start coming down here. And what happens is I begin on this wave between these 2 timelines or trajectories of reality, one being a higher frequency reality, one being a lower frequency reality. And so the objective is that eventually what happens is 1 + 1, one reality plus another reality, collapses into the third reality. 1 + 1 = 3 in quantum physics, okay? And so it's all about momentum. So nobody knows what the time period is going to be, because it's going to be different. As you become more high vibrational, it comes quicker. If you're in deep, dark depression, well, it could be stretched out a little bit longer and you have to go through more of an up and down wave. But the idea is if you can cultivate that physical sensation through your imagery in the mornings and nights, through what you perceive to be the perfect, loving world of yourself, your family, your friends, and then you can bring that vibration into your day and only be present by holding that vibration day after day after day after day. When you collapse into that third reality is going to settle into that vibrational frequency.
Well, yeah, you're the architect. So it's like, instead of being a consumer, I want to be a producer. Like, and how do I produce? Well, it's like, instead of watching that TV show, I can design my home. I can design the blueprint to what that home looks like. Well, I don't have the money to do that. I don't have the money to build that home, so why would I ever sit down and do that? Well, in sitting and providing your attention to that home that you're going to build and drawing out the lines. It's like not worrying about how that's going to present itself. It's like you in that creation mode. It's like you don't worry about how it's going to come into fruition. The fruition will come into your design.
Exactly. And so while you're doing what Dustin's talking about in the physical, in the morning and at the nighttime, I'm going to spend an hour, maybe 2 hours with my eyes closed, mentally envisioning myself sitting on the couch of that already done house. And I'm going to say, man, I'm so thankful.
You've sent me the blueprints.
I'm so thankful and grateful that I have already achieved this. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Mother. Thank you for this beautiful abundance and love. And it's a state of gratitude, that energetic signature. And I asked myself, how would I feel if I had already achieved this? And if you have a silent mind and you can close your eyes long enough and you can silence your mind and ask yourself that question, how would I feel if I had already achieved everything that I am out to achieve? You're going to feel something that comes along if you can keep your mind silent long enough to hear the answer. And when that vibration, that literally a sensation, a physical sensation within you triggers, it's going to feel good.
So you're feeling abundance, which means you're attracting abundance. You are a complicated piece of machinery or an instrument. Your body is
organic
an
intelligence.
Every one of these emotions and triggers are like you plucking the string of a guitar. And every time you're plucking that string, you're getting the music back to you. So if you're playing bad music, you're going to get bad results. If you're not letting those situations trigger you. So every time you felt like your kids were being taken away from you, you're plucking a string of lack, of separation.
Separation is purely a form of lack.
Because you're able to let it go and not let it affect you is when it allowed it to come back into your life.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Talking about like how you would feel achieving something, I feel like if I were to achieve anything that I set out to do right now, I would feel exactly how I feel right now in this moment. And I think realizing that is part of actually finding peace. And like what you're manifesting, like a house, car, whatever it is if you feel like you're going to feel better when you achieve it, the universe will never give it to you.
Yeah, because you're still in a state of lack.
You never had it to begin with.
Yeah. And that's such a tricky two sides of the coin, right? Mm-hmm. And understanding how to be...
I don't mean to interrupt, but you feel like if you're manifesting something, like that's the life you want, that's where you're going to want to be, and not realizing like you already have the ability to have that right now, but I guess, you feel like that if you get that, that's the life I want, and that's what's going to make me happy, and that's what I'm going to be.
I mean, have you ever had a situation where you had designed something you thought that you wanted, and then it ended up being not the thing that you wanted to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's been through that. But an example I have, like right at this moment, is we're both buying land and building houses right now, and my whole life, like that was a huge, huge goal for me. Of something that was almost unattainable to, like we got land that we're closing on this week, and we're building a house on a gorgeous view. And one thing I feel like I've struggled with just from people talking to me about it is I've struggled with like being excited about it. I feel no way about it whatsoever. Like my dad and Shane's like, "Are you excited?" I'm just like, "Yeah."
Well, that's a good thing because excitement is a polarity.
It is.
It is to polarize.
And I am excited about it, but it is not in a way when I was really dreaming about achieving this goal. Like I thought like if I got that, I would have something.
You thought it was going to like fulfill you in some type of way that was going to be like, okay,
like already being completely fulfilled with my life, and then getting this, I'm just like, wow, this like manifesting really works, but not in the way people think it is.
Exactly.
People think that like you pray for something or you manifest whatever the fuck you want to call it, like that's going to bring you fulfillment. And if you sit there and say, I want it, I see myself there over and over again, that you're going to get it and then you're fulfilled. But
so what is it?
Well, and let me real quick to jump on this. This is why when we started this conversation, we put this in points. First is you have to learn how to move yourself from a state of separation to a state of singularity. Step 2, you have to learn how to let go of attachment in the mind to the things outside of you, realizing that there is no thing outside of you. It's all inside of you. 3, you have to become neutral and non-polarized from any event and situation that could ever come into your experience. 4, once you've achieved all of that, then you can move into the state of creatorship by embodying these imageries and things. But it's not the things you're embodying, it's the vibration imagery that's important here. But those things resonate at certain frequencies. And so if I think about something of love, if I think about my dog licking me in the face in the morning, it triggers the sensation and vibration of love within me. Once I learn how to trigger the sensation of vibration within me, I can let go of the thought that resonates at that frequency, and I can just trigger love. And then everything in the world that matches love will magnetize to me. That's abundance. That's material things that we see is awesome to have and experience, right? Mm-hmm. All of those things in a higher lifestyle would resonate and magnetize to you. And so
that's how the law of attraction works.
That is the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is I don't realize fully that I'm single in singularity. I still have some lack in attachment to things, and I'm now trying to go into my mental capacity and create the world that I want, that I think that I don't already have. Mm-hmm. 2 different timelines and trajectories.
Well, it's like that polarity that we've been talking about. There's 2 sides of the same coin. That's the law of polarity. It's like we created atomic energy to be a power of like good, and it ended up being a power of bad. It's like we were using drugs and alcohol and women to fill a void that we felt that we had. And it sounds like even the idea and dream of having a house and having land was going to satisfy this realization that we were going to arrive to a point where it was like, maybe I'm using a positive instance to fill a void. And it's like, well, that's what, I guess, if you were to look at, like, say, biblical situations, it's like, well, that's where they would tell you, Christians or Bible people would tell you to, that's why you put all your effort into God. You know, God is that fill of that void or something. It's like, we always think that we're striving towards some sort of, I guess we feel like we're getting to some sort of end, some sort of like realization, some sort of like satisfaction. It's like, okay, I've arrived, when you never actually really arrive to anything.
You know, it's always just there. You know, kind of on the same topic, I think I heard in the background of one of your reels today, was the guy was talking about something that really resonated with me like the last couple of years. So to set this up, Dustin, okay, if I gave you $10 million today, would you be excited?
Here's the thing. Here's how we are.
Yes or no question.
No. Here's how we are as humans, man. We get used. We get used to it.
What do you mean?
We get used to it.
Used to what?
We get used to whatever it is that we are. Like, let's just say I live in Oklahoma now, and I've always dreamed of living in the mountains, and now I've lived in the mountains for 10 years. It's kind of like, oh, it's no big deal.
Play that out.
Yeah, cool. Oh, $10 million. I was once poor. I understand and value $10 million because I was poor.
And there'd be some excitement in the beginning.
Right, but that is a fleeting experience.
Yeah, so
you know?
Walk with me on this.
Okay.
So if I gave you $10 million, like, would you be excited?
Yeah, I would no longer. I would take that money because I've really been paying attention and focusing on this because I have experienced having money and I've experienced living paycheck to paycheck and I've experienced not having a dime to my name. And so it's like every time you don't have a dime to your name, you're like, okay, when I have that money, this time I'm really going to manage it properly and I'm going to do what I need to do. And it's just like I got a few investments that if, you know, the flip of a coin, they could do some really amazing things for myself and my family. And then if I had excess of money, it's like what I would do for the community.
Well, what I'm alluding to is if I gave you that money, but the only option was you wouldn't wake up the next morning, would you take it?
Right. I mean, sometimes not having that money is a blessing in disguise because you're going to only amplify what you already are. So if you're a guy that just drinks and goes to the strip club, now you're going to be on a yacht with a bunch of bitches.
The answer is no, Nick. I would not take the money because I value my life more than I do the money.
What I'm saying is waking up in the morning is more valuable than any amount of money that you could ever receive in your life.
Right, yeah. I was making very...
That's what the point I was trying to make.
I was making good money for a few years doing what I was doing in the trucking industry, but it was the worst job for my mental state known to man. Like, it really made me consider pulling the trigger and blowing my brains out. And so at that point, what does money matter? The number one thing that matters, and what we're alluding to, the whole point of all of these exercises and how we arrive to this state of love, is that the alternative is that I'm no longer here because I fucking hate myself and I want to kill myself.
Yeah. And, you should never, base your life around money at all. But also, I think there's a lot of fulfillment in finding a strong purpose that provides money. I think money is a very neutral thing. I think you can have a very much more purposeful life if you learn how to make a lot of money. But you'll never learn to make a lot of money until you do everything that we've talked about this whole episode beforehand, until you can really just find peace and gratitude and waking up. And I've always said that you'll never make or sustain making a lot of money until the emotion of making a ton of money and the emotion of losing a ton of money are the exact same. So if you wake up and you lose 10 grand, or you wake up and you make 10 grand, if that emotion, like if you feel any other way about it other than like, okay, then you're not ready to handle lots of money.
I want to bring this up. Every time, the more we talk, and I know we're talking about chakras, energy systems, and the quantum realm, but when we do discuss things, there are things of the Bible that highlight some of what we're talking about. And it's kind of like, it reminds me of the story of Job, maybe. It's kind of like, cool, Job has everything, and Job is the perfect guy, and of course he worships you, but watch me take everything away from him. And so it's in that state of Job not reacting to the fact that everything has been taken away from him, that he's still not faithful to God. And so,
yeah, I think the kind of the point of the story was he stayed faithful to God no matter what he lost or gained. Because in the are you familiar with the book of Job?
Well, I'm not, but I would perceive that as, because in the Bible it's talking about losing faith in a God externally. There is no God externally. There is no man on a throne anywhere. Okay, God is who we are, manifest in infinite versions. And so I feel that if we cannot hold our attention on this oneness, right, or if we have that separation of lack, that would be losing faith in it. One of the funny points that I've heard in the last week about the Bible, because again, we're not saying the Bible's bad. I do think there's some beautiful teachings in the Bible, but I think the perception has been completely twisted. And this is one thing that struck me real deep down to the core. The Bible has this all-loving, unconditional God in it, right? How in the Bible does this unconditional God kill upwards of 3 million people throughout the Bible, but Satan kills no one?
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. And or was it yesterday? I think
it was like a couple days ago. I don't know, but I was just like, whoa.
I did a podcast on Saturday with just a few friends. A lot of fun, but one of the females that one of Shay's friends, Sierra, she's a strong Mormon Christian, and we're talking about the Bible a little bit.
Is she Mormon or Christian?
Well, they said it's both.
Oh,
so yeah, I know. And I was like,
what? Wait.
Like,
it's quite different.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, in the Bible, God kills over 3 million people, and the devil kills 0. And in the Bible, God is the only person who actually told any lies, and the devil told 0.
And in the Bible, God is always projected as a he, and there's actually occurrences throughout the Bible where God is actually plural, gods.
Oh, the majority of the Old Testament is like that, but it's just translated different in English. So.
And so what I'm getting at is throughout all of history, and Christian is a new age. All of these religions today, as we know them, are new age religions. They're just developed within the last 2,000 to 3,000 years. There's actually old age information, and I guess what people would label as religions, but they're really not religions. They're just laws of the universe and understandings of the Hermetic principles.
And so that's kind of like
connection.
Where the basis of the law is, those 7 laws, is predating the Bible, and it comes from that Egyptian knowledge. And so the thing is like when you understand those base laws, like correspondence, cause and effect, gender, law of polarity, it's like you can now start to look at the Bible as, okay, this is in accordance with the laws. This is not in accordance with the laws. And I know we don't just stop there, because then there's...
It goes back further.
Right. We don't just stop there, but we're still just we're just peeling the onion back, and we want to get to the truth. We want to understand. And those laws mean so much to me because I've understood since me and you first met when we were about 20, 21 years old. I mean, I've known, even though I wrecked myself for like those 15 years, it's like I've known about those things because I see those things. I see and maybe why I see those things is I've been an only child. I don't have any siblings. I don't have any kids. And I understand that somebody who may be weighted down with those responsibilities may not have the opportunity to see that, this thing is like, I went through a period where like I am God. Like, I went through a period where I am the second coming of Christ. Like, I checked myself into
like Manson shit.
I checked myself into a mental facility.
A Russian mental facility.
No, with a Russian.
Oh, with a Russian in California.
We drove across the country. And I really had to. I prayed to God because I thought what I was experiencing was blasphemous. I was being blasphemous, like, because whatever happened to me during that time, you had to convince me that I wasn't God. Like, that's how serious it was.
Now, there's two different perceptions of when we talk about I am God, right? There's one, which would be the service to self, when they know that, okay, hey, all is one thing. It's all a singular thing. I am God. I am here to take dominion over all things, and all things should serve me because I am God.
Well, that was the mistake that I made.
That's the one side. That's the service to self. The service to others is the idea, everything is singular. I am God, but I am equal to all things, people, things, objects, animals, water, sky, solar systems. All of creation is God. And so since we are all God and equal, we are in service to each other. Two different sides of the coin.
I thought I was the maestro, though. I thought this whole thing was surrounded by me, and I was like, y'all going to work is nuts. Like, I can talk. I'm telepathically communicating to animals. Like, I'm with this shit.
This was like how many years? This is a couple year period.
Dude, there's a couple years period. Yeah. And then it's finally like, I had.
How was dating with that mindset?
Dude. I had a few girls who kind of came in and out of my life who kind of understood the whole principle and what was going on, but like I was just so enamored. Like, I would have like foxes come up to my, onto my deck on my porch, and thinking that these were my spirit animals, and that like I was manipulating weather with my mind, and that if like I set out the intention to trip, like, I would just think something and the things would happen. I would be so concerned with the next thought that I would have because it was happening in real time. Like, for instance, we talk about, okay, you want to trip, let's go take about 3 grams of mushrooms. Cool. That was a thought, an action, and response. Well, I had an experience where I was just like thinking, hey, it's been a while since I've tripped. Hey, that might be an experience I want to enjoy, And I went through a period where I was just trusting myself, because last time we talked about how I was not trusting others and how I was paranoid and things. Well, and I was like, well, if I want to get to the bottom of trusting other people, I need to start trusting myself. Then I started to realize that there was a voice in my head that said, hey, do this. And then in response to that voice would say, no, don't do that. Like, hey, I'm going to go open the door right now. No, don't do that. Go grab a drink. And so, hey, I'm good at studying for tests. No, you're not good at studying for tests. So there was this contradiction in my mind that I became aware of. And so there was a period of my time in my life where I was just like, I'm just going to say yes to that first guy every single time. Yeah.
And that ended up in a California mental institute with a Russian.
No, that led to me like, okay, so like I'm walking around telepathically communicating to animals, manipulating the weather with my mind. And I'm like, man, my muscles hurt, I don't want to walk around anymore. And then the next thought was, go grab that plant and chew on it. And I said, okay, because I'm just saying okay to everything in my conscious and my subconscious mind. Man. So I went and I'm chewing on this thing. And so the next day I'm like, hey, chew on that. I'm like, okay. So this one was a berry, and I'm chewing on the berry. I'm like, okay. And then I'm at work the next day at a natural health food store, and I still got this thing. I think it's valerian root is what it was. and I'm chewing on this thing in the middle of work. People are like, "You're nuts, dude." And I'm just like, but I was in a Whole Foods store, so I could, I'm like, it's Valerian, there's pills of it right there. I'm just chewing the plant.
Yeah, I'm all natural.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I get back. It's like midnight at this time, and I just rip a bong rip. And then all of a sudden I have the next thought in my mind, because I'm just saying yes to this guy every day and not ignoring him, not recanting or nothing. And then all of a sudden the thought goes, wow, you're handling this a lot better than you used to. And I go, what are you talking about? Talking to myself. And all of a sudden I go, you're tripping balls right now. And then I look around, and I'm in a full-blown trip. And all I did was lead myself to it through a bunch of random plants, because I had the thought and I created that. You may think it's crazy. You may think it's dumb. It was an experience that I've had, because I've tripped dozens of times. And I've done it purposely,
multiples
and with
of dozens.
intent. Yeah.
What do you think it was like? The plants that you ingested?
This one experience, it's like, to me, it's like, how would you ever have known that a plant was poisonous unless you tried it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would have had to have some sort of, how would you know how to create a process unless you read it in a book? Well, what was before books? It's like all you had was intuition and this effort and this consciousness directing you towards this thing. And of course, it's like, okay, Tim ate that plant and he's fucking dead. Don't eat that one again. But it's like,
poor Tim.
I really do think it's more elaborate than that we had some sort of ability to like discern things, because how would we ever have arrived to some sort of answer? And so now we're kind of debilitated in this sense, because we're reading business books. Well, I read 100 business books. This is how this guy did it, and this is how this guy did it, and this is how this guy did it. And it hasn't worked for me. Why is that? Well, it's like that was the process that worked for him or her. That was the process that worked for them. How about what is it going to take for you to develop the process on your own? So that was kind of what the experience said to me, is like my intuition led me to like not have to say I identified this plant and this is what it does. It was just like, could I have died? Maybe, but I did say, I had the thought. I said, what happened when I had that first plant in my mouth? The pain went away, like the pain that I was experiencing. And so I kept hiking, or whatever it is you want to call it. So like everything that my consciousness was telling me was an exact response to the problem that I had that proposed a solution. And so that's far out there. It's a crazy story. I don't like to talk about it a lot.
I lived during this time.
Yeah.
I co-sign on this. And it was an experience. But, we talk about how we had intuition before we had technology. And we saw this the other day. And this is one of those things, this book I want to buy, the Book of Enoch, right? This was a book that was removed from the Bible. This is another thing that I want to really bring up in everybody's awareness and ask these questions. Why was this book? And does anybody actually know what the Book of Enoch is? So,
and to that, before you start on this, so in the Bible, and we talked about this today or yesterday, that Enoch was, in the actual Bible that we still have today, was so close to God that he was just taken straight to heaven. And if that's in the Bible and they believe that to be true, why would they take the writings of this man out of the biblical canon?
Well, they removed it because they don't want to know how powerful you are. And so
exactly.
Well, let's get into it a little bit, because people might not understand what you're saying by how powerful we are. So basically, the Book of Enoch, and there's the first Book of Enoch, second Book of Enoch, third Book of Enoch, fourth Book of Enoch, and the fallen angels. And you can actually buy this book. It's called the Book of Enoch. The author is Joseph B. Lumpkin.
Or just the Apocrypha.
Yeah, or the Apocrypha.
That's all the books that were eliminated out of the Bible.
Yeah, and which was like 85 or 75 or something books like that. It was quite a bit.
Well, there's been a ton, but that's the most famous.
I've got what is it? The 1966.
Well, yeah, and I got into
the Sinaiticus Bible.
Well, not even the Sinaiticus. The very first King James has the Apocrypha in it.
Yeah, the Catholic Bible still has the Apocrypha in it.
But the Book of Enoch, I want everybody to quickly capture this real fast. So Enoch was the great-grandfather of Noah, Okay, and Noah was actually not his original name. Noah is just kind of what it's translated into, right? But the book of Enoch goes into the understanding of how our planet was seeded. How did we as humans with our abilities show up, right? And it all came from advanced races of civilizations that were much more advanced, interstellar advanced civilizations called the Anunnaki.
And Enlil.
Now, Inky and Enlil were a part of some of the races that were.
You might know more
there.
because I've never read the Book of Enoch at all. I just know what I said about it just now. Is the Anunnaki in the Book of Enoch?
Yes.
Like by name?
Yes, and there was multiple races of the Anunnaki, right? There wasn't just one type. There were called breakaway civilizations. And so it talks about this galactic war that had taken place in the Pleiades star system. And essentially, because of that war, there were breakaway civilizations. Now, there is an ultimate law in all of the universe and creation, okay? And Star Trek actually plays this out. It's called the Prime Directive, right? We'd heard this on Billy Carson. He was talking about this the other day. Great guy, Forbidden Knowledge TV. Check him out. He goes into way more detail than what we can describe to you here and now. But want to kind of give you a basis idea that this was actually in the Bible and should be in the Bible, but it was removed, right? And so basically there's a prime directive that if you are an interstellar civilization, you've achieved warp drive, right? You cannot communicate or engage with any civilization that has not achieved warp drive. But what had happened at these way ancient times, that these groups and breakaway civilizations of these different Anunnakis, they were actually attracted to the human woman, okay? And they weren't slaves within themselves like how our civilization has been built, but there was kind of like different classes of Anunnaki. There was the working class, and the way Billy puts it is like, imagine if you're the owner of a construction company, right? You're the owner, you're up here, and then you have your foreman, you have your contractor, and then you have the labor hands, right? Well, there's different stories throughout different texts, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Emerald Tablets. I mean, it's all over the place that these similar stories and understandings, the Book of Enoch, that all say very similar things, right? And so these civilizations, these breakaway civilizations, they say, hey, you know what? I think we're going to go down there and we're going to take some of the human women for our wives. And they did. And so they broke this prime directive by engaging with us. And then even as they took wives, they then began to teach the humans this forbidden knowledge, this secret knowledge of technology and understanding. And so what's happened is when you take a civilization and you advance them technologically, where they become a technocratic civilization, but they're not spiritually mature or equally caught up, well, then that is why there is this prime directive of no infringing on free will and communication for a civilization that hasn't achieved warp drive, because you literally give them the nuclear bombs to destroy themselves. And we see that how that has played out through history. Mm-hmm. But it goes through the Book of Enoch, and like I can't sit here and verbatim all the different names of the Anunnakis, but there was different Anunnakis. One taught the way that the solar lunar cycles happen. There was another one that taught the geometry and understanding of mathematics and physics. There was another one that taught constellations and all that. So all these things that we think we've developed technologically ourselves was actually given to us, okay? And it was given to us in a way that we weren't spiritually developed enough to be able to take these things on. And so we're at this precipice of destroying ourselves right now. We're so technologically advanced, but we're catching up fast. We're catching up very fast. But spiritually, the globe has not matured or developed as fast as the technology has because of these advanced
Now, wasn't there a state where we were in this golden age that you discussed, like the time of Atlantis? Like, was that part of us?
Well, yeah, it was and it wasn't. I mean, there was always, and this is important too, like in every type of civilization, whether it's Anunnaki or the Elohim or whatever it may be, the Pleiadians or Andromedans, right? There's always a positive form and a negative form. There's both sides
Polarity.
of the polarity. So a lot of people, when you say Anunnaki, they're like, oh, I've been told those are negative beings. But
Well,
really,
and so because we've gone through so much years of like being self-destructive, there's only, I mean, given the law of polarity, there's only the next plausible thing is 1,000 years of peace, because we've been 1,000 years of,
we're at that transition, and just like Atlantis, right? They were extremely technologically advanced, farther than their spiritual modalities. Now, there was entities and beings in that timeline that were spiritually advanced and understood these things, but the percentage was outweighed, right? And they got into a time period where they were able to create black matter, and that black matter can turn into a black hole, which can engulf the planet and part of creation. And so we're at that same period. CERN, over there on the other side of the world, they're colliding particles, creating black holes and portals. You can look this up. Everybody, I challenge you to look this up. CERN, CERN. They're doing rituals over there. They're opening portals. They're shooting rockets into the moon. Like, what we're talking about is been happening since the beginning of time. And we have this choice right now. We're at this graduation. We're at this precipice to either destroy ourselves or to wake up and say, oh, wait. That's not who we are.
So from what I understand, though, that what you're looking at when you mention things of that and what they are doing is the negative polarity, which is the third dimensional world. And if we were able to separate ourselves and we were able to live in this higher realm and these higher chakras, that we're going to split off into this 4D realm.
Well, we're not separate from that, because what we see is inside of us.
Yeah,
but the rape, the
3D
the child abuse, the destruction, the
and
control, right? It's all inside of us. And so what we're doing is we're just becoming aware of it. And then we're becoming aware of who we truly are, which is one love, one being.
When you say we, you're talking about the collective consciousness.
The entire collective conscious. All the animals, all the humans, all of creation. It's all, right now in this realm, everything that we know to be existence is all one collective conscious. Now, there are groups of polarized consciousness within that singularity. One group sees themselves as service to self. The others are in service to others. But ultimately, it's the same God manifest in both versions, because there is no good and there is no evil. There is no good and there is no bad. We just here in this realm attached to that because it's a dual reality of polarity. And so, but the understanding or comprehension is to realize, oh, wait, there's only one thing going on here. And I now admit and take full responsibility for all things I see outside of me happening, and I do not give my consent. Now, that doesn't mean I physically go over there and beat them up and tell them to stop. But now I can shut them out. I've acknowledged them. I've become aware of them. I now take steps in my daily life, in my community, and with my family and with my friends to be of the vibrational frequency that is higher than that, because the way vibration works is the highest vibration always wins.
Yeah, so if you're engaging in a negative polarity because of what they're doing to us, then you're just serving the purpose that they want.
You're fueling them. Mm-hmm. And so you can't be scared. You can't be fearful of what they're doing. You can't look at things and
but
go,
is there a point where we have to, because you talk about consent and that brings up some topics. So is there a point where we need to stand up and revolt? Is there a physical action to this?
So I believe, right, that the first step is cultivating the highest vibrational frequency that you can be. And now you are already naturally the highest vibration that you can be. We're just letting go of all the things that are anchoring down our vibration into these lower vibrational frequencies of fear, depression, anger, scarcity, survival, right? And so that first starts with you. And that kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation, right? Realizing all this is going on and that there's only one thing here, but it's in your favor. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you. Then learning how to silence the mind. Then being able to observe your reality and beyond, and being aware of what's going on and not just ignoring it and putting your flappers on because it's not my reality right now. So, oh, well, That's still a state of separation. You haven't taken charge for what's going on. One of the best ways it was put to me, because the way that the so-called negatively polarized collective consciousness gets our consent, right, is by telling us what they're going to do. And then it's kind of like if I go to a flea market and I've got a basket of apples and I sell you an apple and that apple kills you because it was a poison apple, well, I just murdered you. But if I go to the flea market and I got a basket of poison apples and a sign that says poison apple and you grab one and buy it and you eat it, well, now you committed suicide. And so karmically, I'm no longer attached to what just took place. You are. And so it's important that we realize what they're doing and say no more. And so how does that happen? Well, we stop social media. We stop watching the news. We stop engaging in Netflix, right? We start working on ourselves. We start to know thyself. We start to learn how to love thyself. We start to learn how to cultivate vibrational frequencies. We stop listening to bad music.
Yeah, but that's just me, you, and Nick here doing that shit. Like,
oh, there's a lot more than just us.
Thousands of people listen to this too, and it brings it full circle of what we're talking about, controlling your thoughts and mind, to be able to isolate yourself and do that. Because if you don't do that, you'll fall victim to everything that you just said, like all that.
You'll commit suicide.
Exactly. And like I said before, I was on the verge of doing that, and I feel like that was my only option, was to learn to completely control my mind and thoughts. And there's the polarity right there.
Mm-hmm. So science has proven, this is a proven fact. You can research this and look this up. They gathered, I think it was like 1,000 or a couple thousand monks, or it was a very large number of people that all meditated in loving peace and unity at the same time. And they can measure the earth, and it shifts into a more favorable. There's less crime that happens during that time. There's less crazy instances that happen during that time, right? And so what this means is we don't have to physically change things. All we have to do is cultivate the vibration of love within us, and everything externally will shift and change. We're not moving in a linear fashion, like I see this coming, so I got to figure out how to maneuver around it. We're shifting from dimension to dimension. And so we can just shift into, collectively, the dimension where all of a sudden new people get into the government, people get arrested, people move out of the way, people die, right? It just naturally shifts
as
easily.
Part of this collective consciousness, doesn't a majority of the people have to buy into that ideology to move and shift that way?
No, just I think they called it like 10% or like 1%, somewhere between like 1 and 5% of people reaching the vibration of love will shift the entire planet. Because love exponentially, the light exponentially outweighs the dark. Okay, so it doesn't take that long. That's just like with being in service to others. You only have to be 51% service in others to graduate to the fourth density. If you want to graduate into the fourth density of negative polarity, you have to be 90% in service to self.
You know, it kind of makes sense too. We were talking about the world, the vibrational scale, because you said that like we're going up and down. If the world's doing that too, we're experiencing super high lows and super high downs
Collectively.
Mm-hmm.
Planetarily, celestially. It was so funny. They showed a picture of the solar system, right? The sun and the planets and everything. And then they showed a picture of an atom with the protons and everything. They look exactly the same. And it was like the understanding of the fractal pattern that we're just the atoms and protons and electrons at our scale inside of a greater body of the same thing.
We're probably one atom and something else.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, it's like Osmosis Jones.
Osmosis Jones.
You know what I mean? This is the understanding, the breakdown. They have to tell us what it is, and they show us how it works. And so, you know, and that gets into a whole lot of other topics that I think are for another podcast. But when you talk about taking physical action, right? Like Dustin and I have been trailing and studying and observing.
Well, see, like, if we were to diverge for a while, it's like we may see that there's some truths and some untruths in the Bible, but there are a certain group of, like, the world is run. Like, if you start to study about what is being done to us and who is in charge and what are their ideologies and how things are coming about, it's like there are a large group of the people who believe the Bible word for word, and it's exactly what. Like for instance,
to that, I would say there actually are no untruths in the Bible, just misinterpretations and beliefs about those misinterpretations.
Well, and so like,
I believe the Bible. I just don't believe what people are saying about the Bible today.
Well, it's said that the Jews are the chosen people, and they're the ones who are actually. And it says in the Bible that they turn anybody who is a heathen into their bond slaves. Like the Bible legitimately says that they can turn anybody into their slaves.
And I believe that to be a manipulated misinterpretation, because what better than to create yourself as the almighty beings to get the protection of the strongest country in all of creation.
And so because there's karma, they have manipulated it in a way that nulls them free and void of it, because we've done this to ourselves. We've consented
even
to
in Deuteronomical law, it gives examples on how to get people to become your slaves consensually, to rebond them,
and so that they say that you don't enslave your own.
Yeah,
like it says that
literally
shit
gives
in the
you a way
Bible.
to trick people into being your slaves.
Well, and a lot of people, and now we're going down some conspiracy rabbit holes, but conspiracies are labeled conspiracies for a reason, right?
Brought my Bible.
So
it's there.
So
dude,
check
I've seen
this
it.
out. So Israel, to what we have been taught that was in the Bible, is not the Israel that is being projected to us through the TV screens, right? That's called the state of Israel. And the state of Israel is ran by what's called a Zionist Jew. Now, if you look at our congressional people up there in the White House, in both the Senate and in the House, and in the president and the vice president and the speaker, and the majority of them all, they all have dual citizenship. And their second citizenship labels them as Zionist Jews.
I don't know if they would call themselves that.
No, they do. You can look this up. This is
But,
absolute fact.
What's funny though is like I started reading in Revelations where it says God states that people will claim to be Jews, but they are not the Jews that I am.
Zionist Jews.
And they said that this is blasphemy. Yeah, dude, it gets real interesting.
So you can be a Zionist Jew and not be a Jew at all.
Okay, so the CEO of the porn industry of Pornhub, Jewish. The guys who are in control of the Diddy situation and the music industry, Jewish. 70% of the, I mean, I don't really want to get into this because I'm not so educated on it, but it's like, and I don't want to be labeled an anti-Semitic, but it's just like when you want to know who is in charge of you, who can you not criticize? Essentially, it's like if you can't criticize them, that's who is in control of things. And so when you start to peel all this thing back, and then you're like, well, you can't say those things. You can't be anti-Semitic. It's like, well, this is where communism comes from. This is what they believe in. Oh, what is that document called? There's a lot of documents, but we'll just have to make notes and get better at it.
Yeah, we'll have to bring some notes on it, but dive into it.
But it's like when you start to see how the world is being controlled, it's like that these people are using the Bible as their blueprint, word for word, verbatim.
Yep, 100%. Well, guys, this has been a great episode.
This has been a really good one.
I know.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me out.
Thank you,
100%,
guys.
man. I love everybody for coming out tonight. This is the Diesel Daddies Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your mom I love her. And we are out tonight.
Peace.
Peace.
Awesome.